Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. We'll be talking about floods as Pakistan wrestles with the after effects and the rehabilitation as well as rescue efforts that are underway at this time in more than 1/3 of Pakistan being underwater at this time. We've also had a clear narrative from the government, the Prime Minister saying that the first priority of the government at this time, of course, remains rehabilitation, rescue of the people at this time, and also all considerations, politics being secondary at this time, as the government, all health organizations also at this time, welfare organizations, citizens across the board work together, struggle towards doing what they can for the flood affectees. We'll be talking about those rescue efforts. We'll be updating on what the conditions are overall in South Punjab, in KPK, in Balochistan, the areas that have been hit, rescues that are being undertaken at this time. All of that today on Perspective. As a nation at this time, we stand united in our effort to save as many lives as possible, to rehabilitate them, to send, of course, to work and make an effort towards sending children back to school, all those considerations being paramount at this time. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Muhammad Abbas Shakur, who's President AKFP, Al Khidmat Foundation Pakistan. They've done a lot of work for rescue. They're also in the midst of a lot of rescue efforts at this time. We are, as a nation, indebted to organizations like them who are working selflessly at this time to help people in floods. I'd like his update on what's happening, the rescue efforts, all of those. I have also with me Brigadier Dr. Fayaz Hussain Shah, who's former Director General NDMA, and his, of course, his views are always very apt, and his opinion on where and how the rescue efforts should be undertaken and what's happening on ground also. I also have with me Munir Ahmed, who's an environmentalist and a journalist. Thank you for joining us. Munir Sahab, let's overall, as far as the situation, of course, you know, last week also we were talking about it, and we are as a nation grappling with what's happening in terms of the crisis that Pakistan is in, and you know, the whole world is seen. Also, it's a, you know, I keep on thinking about the injustice of it, that as far as you know, the carbon emissions are concerned, we are we haven't exceeded our share of them, but we are, you know, as things go, one of the primary effectees of weather change and climate change, sorry. So overall, what is your opinion about where we are with regard to rescue efforts at this time, and how much headway have we made in your opinion?
Okay, thank you very much. And certainly in the last week, situation has been improved as we talk about relief efforts. And thank you we shall pay thanks to our Prime Minister and other political parties, leaders who have been visiting the disaster affected areas, though they cannot give immediate solace to those affectees, but at least it was a source of emotional support and psychological support that their leadership is with them. And at the moment, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is visiting Gizar, who was totally neglected in the relief and rescue efforts at the moment, because we know mountain areas, among the mountain areas, Gizar, Shigar and Yamar were very much affected, but they were not in the limelight as we saw Swat, right, Balochistan and Sindh. Now at least after taking care of those affected areas, finally Prime Minister reached Gizar, and that shows the commitment of the government to be with the affectees. And as federal government has announced some billions for the affectees, meanwhile we see
we've also seen a lot of support coming from a lot of friendly countries also.
Yeah, that is good. That is again trust of the foreign entities, companies and governments on Pakistan. China has also committed some money and are
and consistent support is coming from Turkey also.
Turkey
America
and
also has
Qatar
pledged
and
money.
America.
We've seen.
So it is good that the international community is
rallying
is
behind Pakistan. Let me come back to you, Munir Sahab. I'm going to go to Dr. Fayaz Hussain Shah. Fayaz Sahab, we're talking about the efforts. We've, of course, we've seen the international community rally behind Pakistan. But in your opinion, the kind of support that we are getting at this time, is it going to be enough? Because I remember speaking to you last week, and there was clearly, it's going to take some time, as I understand, when we talk about rehabilitation, we talk about sending our children back to school, we talk about a lot of work has to be done for us to get us back on the path to recovery even. What is your estimation?
Thank you very much for taking me on this very session. I would rather give an overview in a manner. Now it is clear that we are into an unprecedented situation. We are into a disaster which has the swath, the magnitude, the volume, much more than what we could think of when it set in. The areas which have been affected were not in our reach, I would call in that way. They were not in our plan in a manner, because we had not really thought of going to those areas which have been affected by a change in the pattern of monsoon, because the monsoon had entered from the southwesterly direction, and it hit our southern Punjab, the Sindh and the Balochistan. Now, the relief which has gone in, basically, my assessment, the relief is mostly on philanthropic basis. The individuals, the individual organizations, the NGOs, the INGOs, they were in lead in reaching out to people for providing the immediate relief, even rescue operation. Then came the army, then came the government. Of course, army in different areas was there, but it took little time to mobilize on the relief operation. Now, alhamdulillah, we stand mobilized. All organs are in motion. Our society is in motion. The people have been mobilized. But now, fact is, the intensity, the magnitude of this disaster is so huge, it is so enormous, that we are not able to really reach out to them in an even manner. There are still places as people are in contact with me.
Let me interject here. Overall, there's also now, apparently there is news that we are expecting more floods. We can be expecting more floods according to the weather department in the next week or so.
Yes.
That itself puts us at more risk, does it not?
Exactly. I was just coming to that very side. Now there are areas which are to be taken care of. One has to evenly reach out to all the places.
Okay.
Now 1,200 people have already died. 6,000 people are injured. About 7,50,000 livestock is gone. About 1.1 million houses are damaged and destroyed. Just imagine the swath. Now the relief operation has to be little evenly managed, because I see at many places the relief operation going in, but at many places the relief operation not going in. And if we have more rains, and if it is going to bring in more areas, bring in more casualties, bring in more victims, our dilemma is going to intensify. The international donors, the international support has also come in, but we need to organize it more at government level. I find
how much, what kind of a risk, in terms of the scale, in your opinion, are we in as far as, the future, the immediate future, the next week or so is concerned?
Yes, now what is happening? Now the victims which are in the flood affected area, uh, the diseases are going to set in. Hygienically, they have been exhausted. Their nutrition level has gone down. The comfort, the trauma which they have gone in have exposed them severely to the flood impacts. Now, as we move further, it is going to intensify if we don't take care of all the needs. This one. And second, if we have more rains and if more floods come from the catchment areas of different rivers, because we didn't have riverine floods. We had flash floods, we had torrential floods, we had urban flooding, we had at times gulfs. If riverine flood also join in, because the water from different areas would be coming to our plain, which has virtually become a lake. If you see the satellite images which have come up, about 2/3 of the country is in water, and it has virtually become a lake. Now, something seriously and very intimately is to be done to arrest further damages, losses, and the casualties, the human losses. That is most important. And their health factor is the most important. Now they are into a critical stage. They've entered into a critical stage. If we will not take care of their health, we're going to lose more life. Likewise, if we're not going to take care of those injured, those would turn into casualties. And if
Right, let me come back to you. Faisal, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Muhammad Abdul Shakur Saab, who's President AKFPG. Shakur Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I want to ask you a lot of questions about the relief efforts, but I want to start off by saying that we are as a nation indebted to the effort that you are making. And, I've been following the kind of work that you are doing for flood relief. And I think that, we have to say that Pakistan, of course, will remain indebted to that kind of work that is happening at this time.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
What is overall the status of the rescue efforts in your opinion? Of course, the scale is monumental and a lot needs to be done, right?
That's very true. I guess the rescue work is almost over. I'm not saying that it's completely over. But I think 90% of the rescue work is done in South Punjab, in areas where there was a lot of water. People have been taken out by boats and by other means, and we have rescued thousands of people, brought them to the dry areas, and the same way, almost the situation in KP. Many of the people who were at risk have been rescued. But in Sindh, there are still some villages surrounded by water, and it's not easy to reach there. We have bought or borrowed the boats to reach out there. It may take few more days to bring them out, but sometimes it gets difficult because people don't want to leave their homes regardless of the condition and situation there. But anyhow, this is a big challenge, and alhamdulillah, things now are mostly in control. Now the next phase, which is the relief activities. In relief activities. Go ahead.
I'm glad to hear that you're saying that the first phase is complete overall. But in terms of the kind of response that you've had from civil society, the kind of response that you've had in getting, amassing the relief goods that are needed and then getting them to the flood affectees, overall, how do you look at things? What has your experience been?
Let me say, we are indebted to the nation. It's youth and people who really have come out, admired the activities we have done, and also their response is tremendous, alhamdulillah. and we rely on the response of our own people. I'm not against the international help or financial, commitment. It's always welcome. But I think that Pakistan will be built by the people of Pakistan, and we are very positive that people will show a good, big response in this regard.
And how difficult is it getting things to, for example, southern Punjab, interior Sindh, in certain areas, Balochistan, KP overall? The challenges that you've had to face?
In southern Punjab or in KP, it's not a big challenge now. We can have access to various locations and various population sectors. But in Sindh and in Balochistan, because of the road network, you start from Karachi, want to go to Bela, all road is destroyed. The bridges are no more there. So it is really difficult to reach to many locations. As I said, in Sindh, there are villages. There is no other way except to reach them by boat. So difficulties are still there. But the zeal of the worker and the number of people, including many other organizations. I'm not taking all credit by myself. There are so many other organizations who are selflessly going and reaching out to these people. Salute to all of them.
Right, right. I'll come back to you. Thank you for, please stay with us, and thank you for joining us. I will come back to you on this. I want to go to Zaid Kashkori Saab ji. Zaid Saab, you are, as I understand, in South Punjab. Where are you at this time, and what's happening overall in terms of the relief efforts at this time?
Thank you very much, Marok. I have been covering this flood since day first. Today, I made an investigation findings what exactly happening pertain to flood and monsoon this year in Pakistan. If I could share the detail, these are the shocking detail that how this flood made the history, and it has become the worst ever flood in Pakistan, 40-year long history. I can tell you that initial findings and preliminary data I received from different sources of PDMAs and NDMAs and the district administration of 51 districts. It shows that 70 million people affected in this flood, where 1,70,000 square kilometers of Pakistan, which is, I can tell you that is equal to a total area of 75 countries in the world remain underwater in Pakistan. And the death toll now crossed almost 1,375 people injured, and 2.6 million livestock perished in this flood, and 40 million people remain homeless. And the official data further showed that 21 million houses partially are completely damaged across the country, leaving 6 million
Zaid Saab, like
people.
you are saying, more than 75 countries, the kind of destruction, the area that has been destroyed, the people that have been displaced, the lives that have been affected are potentially, it's an area of more than 75 countries, and more than that of 75 countries. And the scale of the devastation is unparalleled, and we haven't seen that kind of devastation in the last 40 years. But overall, in terms of the rescue at this time, the pace of it, are you happy the way that, considering you are on ground in southern Punjab? Let's talk particularly about that since you are there. Is it the pace at which it's taking place are you happy with it? Are you satisfied with it? Are we, like, we saw Mohammad Shakur Saab saying that we are moving towards the second phase. In your opinion, where are we in southern Punjab as far as things are?
In South Punjab, I am not satisfied with the rescue operation because reasons are multiple. and the provincial disaster management authorities have limited capacity. And the rescue 1122 in Punjab playing very vital role, and one should appreciate that the available resources utilized by the government of Punjab, that they are now trying to get out around 1 million people surrounding in this river, covering around 81 kilometers, which started from Darya Khan or Bhakkar district, then all the way from Karor and Laya and Kotaddu and then Muzaffargarh. This is the Indus river belt which badly affected, and I can tell you that around 23 union councils of district Laya, Tehsil Laya, completely washed away this time, and this flood broke the record. And on the one side of river, like toward east, 24 union council all the way washed away. Before this, the other side of in this river, like everybody knows this, in Taunsa and Dera Ghazi Khan, this flood set the new precedence of worst kind of disaster that which happened in Taunsa and Dera Ghazi Khan. And you were talking about the rescue operation that it's not completed yet. I can tell you that because there is an absolute need of food, emergency in medicine, and today the health department of the Punjab province told us that around 2 lakh people are facing outbreak of waterborne diseases, and now the post-flood situation may be worsening. With the passage of time, after 4 weeks, there would be a winter starting in South Punjab, and then the worst hit is again the district Rajanpur. We can ignoring it, and this is the most impoverished district in the province, and unfortunately, I have seen that people were crying for food over there, and of course, obviously, I can tell you the size and the scope and the volume of this disaster could not be handled like a poor country in Pakistan. But one thing is categorically, we can say this, that after 2000 flood, the worst in the recent history, the Supreme Court of Pakistan and all provinces formed the commission and inquiry committee. Their findings were not implemented, and the issues pointed out, and the weaknesses and the capacities of National Disaster Management Authority in Pakistan least listen.
Zaid Saab, let me just come back to you. I'm going to go to Munir Saab. Munir Saab, you heard what Zaid Saab is saying. He's saying that this is, of course, the worst ever flood overall. In your opinion, how long does it take for this kind of, in this kind of a disaster, for things, to move from this to rehabilitation, for example, the rescue efforts and all?
Basically, still at the moment, we are looking for more relief efforts, and then it would be early recovery period, and then rehabilitation and such kind of things. Like this is usually the phases. And
where would you put the phase at this time? Of course, a lot of these areas
at this moment we are in the relief process.
But as far as southern Punjab is concerned, which is what Zaid Saab is talking about, that Rajanpur and that area itself, there are other a lot of challenges, and like he's saying, diseases and control of those diseases is also going to be a huge deal. We will, the efforts that will have to be made to do that. So that's going to be another challenge for us once those people, housing them, getting back things, going back to normal, all of those things.
After a flood, there is always a health disaster, because it brings several diseases over there. They are not protected, and several other diseases emerge from the flood water, and that is a phenomena. And government perhaps is taking.
I'm sure you're saying that something that's foreseeable.
Yeah,
of course.
Yes, that is foreseeable, and they are into such kind of efforts as well. And we have seen the medicines and the medical teams are visiting the flood affected areas.
But it makes them more vulnerable.
But in the meanwhile, we have to look the prediction that Met Office has alerted us.
Another next week. Yes.
In the floods are expected till the 3rd week of September. Still, there is
more rain is expected.
More danger on us,
yes.
And we have to take care. If the same sort of flood come, if the two monsoon systems again comes together, and it would create another disaster over disaster. And then as we were discussing, the health one. And of course, we have to go to the early recovery, where we have to construct their houses again and to rebuild the infrastructure that has been damaged. But before that, we have to have a very specific survey, and that is in the process.
Okay.
And let's see
survey about the actual destruction or the areas. What survey regarding what particularly? The affected.
The exact loss at the moment. $9 to $10 billion loss has been estimated, and then we have to exactly estimate, as the experts believe and the government agencies believe, it can be more than $9-10 billion. So these things, and we have to again evaluate in real terms, and then we would see what could be the process.
Okay, let me
I really appreciate Al Khidmat Foundation is doing, and they have very integrated system. But unfortunately, we are very passionate and emotional nation.
Yes.
We simply collect some relief goods and straight away go. There should be some mechanism to do it. These individuals and the small organizations shall be guided, and how they should proceed and where they should proceed with their flood relief commodities.
But these organizations like Al Khidmat Foundation, isn't that the kind of platform that they provide? Let me go to Shakur Saab. Shakur Saab, can you hear me?
Al Khidmat Foundation is...
Ji, Shakur Saab, can you hear me? No, I think there's a problem with audio. Ji.
Yeah. Such kind of organizations we need. But this is not...
But you're saying there are very few of these.
Very few.
Right.
You maybe 2-3 more organizations you can count on. But there should be, because we know that there will be floods, there will be a climatic impact, and followed by such kind of thing, incidents. Why we do not develop systems where individuals could be integrated, or the smaller organizations could be integrated, and they could extend their support in more integrated fashion.
Let me go to, with this I want to go to Brigadier Fayaz Saab. Ji, Fayaz Saab, we're talking about the fact that why don't we have mechanisms in place? Okay, we talk about foreseeability, of course, but when we talk about climate change and being foreseeable, and that being something that we guard against, control against, work towards, that's a separate chapter. But then having organizations in place who respond to these kind of disasters in a mechanized, organized way, have you seen a lot of them? Because of course, there are a few, Al Khidmat being one of them, but there are considerably, there can be more mechanisms in place. Certainly, of course, government also has its own mechanism in place, but other than that.
Basically, we have to understand that concept which brings the mechanism. Only then we will be able to really discuss it as it was being taught. If you see the disaster risk management cycle, and if you divide it as a cycle divided into 4 parts, first is the 2 halves, and then there are further 2 quarters of each half.
Okay.
First is the half which is before the disaster, and second is which is after the disaster. Now, before the disaster is we call prevention and mitigation quarter. then we have preparation quarter, then we have response quarter, and then we have recovery quarter. Now we are into response quarter. Response quarter is further 3 slices: the rescue, search, and the relief. We are now at relief stage. Now after relief, we will go into recovery, and which has early recovery as the first part. Now I would like to highlight a point here. The threat which we are going to have, that even we are going to have rains till mid-September, 3rd week of September. Now we should be applying that cycle. We should right now at state machinery level going into prevention and mitigation stage. It's a cycle, and different cycles will be in overall national disaster management cycle. Those different cycles have to operate at different places. Now this cycle of prevention and mitigation for that mid-September hazard which we are foreseeing, we should start rolling now, and we should start preparing for that. We should start have early warning system for that. We should have evacuation plan for that. This is onset of that part of the disaster which we will have in mid-September. Now as far as we are now concerned, the relief part would take time. To my mind, relief part would take at least 4 to 6 weeks, even more, and the rehabilitation, which we call early recovery, would also take time, because just visualize that water is standing all around, the drainage is virtually failed, we are not able to drain out the water has to seep into the surface is saturated, it would take time in seeping that water under surface. Now this complete inertia would in fact be stopping us from going into early recovery stage. And beside this, the destruction which has taken place, the road structure which has gone off, the bridges which have gone off, the transportation means which have virtually been destroyed. Now you would virtually be restoring so many facilities before going into early recovery stage. So that is how this is to be seen. Now the point, how can we do it? It is not one NGO which has to do it. It is the state which has to do it. It is all from NDMA, from PDMAs, from BDMAs. Everyone who have to orchestrate this very operation. And these organizations, the NGOs, INGOs, are not for managing complete spectrum of disaster. They are just relief operation agencies, and they would be off. Then they have to be factored in. I was Director General, Earthquake Reconstruction Rehabilitation Authority, and I know how recovery process is strenuous, and how much time does it take, and how much resources does it take, and how deep planning it would take. We would have to make a new vision of restoring that area, that process. And as someone was talking about the damage and loss assessment, that is very important. Without going into an integrated damage and loss assessment, we will not be able to come up with an integrated response. So this is the responsibility of state at present, to go into integrated damage and loss assessment in all areas, in all walks of life, in all facets. Only then we will be able to really make an assessment how much resources do we need to restore some functional state of the area which has been affected. What to talk of the real recovery? Let me tell you, the real recovery, earthquake 2005, we are in 17th year of recovery stage, and we have not crossed 80%. To my mind, this area is much more than that. It is devastated by the flood, and we would have to make very, very deliberate planning. Only then we shall be able to really come out from this very situation.
Ji, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Dr. Abdul Hakim, who is in Lasbela. Ji, Hakim Saab, what is the situation in Balochistan in Lasbela at this time? How much rescue has been undertaken? What about the water? Is water receding at all? Is it being cleared? What is the situation?
Assalamu alaikum. Are you hearing me?
Gigi, I can hear you.
Yeah, the rescue operation is almost done, and relief operations are going on. So here in Balochistan is a different kind of plateau or different type to surface we have. Generally in Balochistan, water flows down very quickly, and the land gets wet earlier as compared to Sindh or rest of the Pakistan, maybe Punjab or Sindh. So water has just descended and cleared. The surface is clear so far, and the relief operations are going on so far. But the main issue is coming in rehabilitation of the individuals who are badly affected. And this is not in Balochistan generally, we don't have IDPs. We have TDPs basically. The people do not leave their spaces, do not leave their houses to move somewhere. They just stay on their homes and stay at their place where they were living. They are still staying on there, and they need rehabilitations. They need to build their houses again. They need to build their infrastructure again. They need to build the agricultural land or to make it able for cultivations. So water has descended so far. It is clear up to now. Maybe more rain is expected in September, mid of September or the last week of September. But so far the situation is clear, and weather is clear and a little bit more
What about
dry.
preparedness for, you're saying that of course, more rain is expected. What about our preparedness at this time for the kind of, the kind of situation that will result, of course, if we see more rain, if we see more water pooling in?
I think we are not. I'm just say we are not ready for anything. We are facing disasters since for decades, and this is not the last disaster, and wouldn't be the first, and wouldn't be the last. And we are not prepared much, and we have not well-equipped machinery we have in the district level or the tehsil level. We are just hiring some of the private sector from private NGOs or like that. So we are not prepared about that, and it was the devastation was on a so large scale. I think it was not possible for the management or even for the provincial government. Or
we've seen the Prime Minister visit again and again. We've seen them, the rescue efforts that have been underway. Are you satisfied with what could have been done, has been done till now?
I think so far is all things, not at the government level, but some non-government organizations have done well, and they have rescued the individuals. But the problem is not only to rescue the individuals or just to escape from the situation. In Balochistan, the people have to need a rehabilitation. The devastation is so on a large scale that it will take years to resettle the individuals who have just built their lands for make it able for the agriculture, for their livelihood, and the cattle they have farming, and all have washed out by the water. So they need rehabilitation. I think the problem is coming in rehabilitation, not in the rescue. Rescue has done so far is so good. I think it's not bad. The individual on the government sector, but also the private sector have been involved in rescue operations. We are not satisfied. We can say that we are satisfied with the rescue operations, but that is gone. We have to move forward. We have to resettle the individuals who are badly affected by the floods. So we should work on the rehabilitation. We have to.
There's no two opinions on that. Thank you so much. Let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Munisa. Munisa, what about preparedness at this time when we find out, we've had the Met Department, the forecast being that there's going to be more rain. What kind of preparedness can we have at this time?
At this time, immediately we can engage communities at every district level.
Okay.
Before that I deliberate on it, in the disaster management regime, community-based disaster risk management is a very important component. Unfortunately, our disaster management authorities could reach to provinces, but not to district as they should be.
Okay.
And if it would have been reached at the district level, and then we could have more community-based disaster risk management.
Okay.
That includes preparedness, immediate rescue, immediate relief, and unfortunate is. But immediately at this moment, when the entire nation is mobilized and they are passionately out to help the victims and the expected affectees, I think there should be some warning system before that, as the Met Office means only they can issue some alerts. But end of the day, the local governors, the local administration, the local disaster management authorities, they have to act.
Okay.
The province, they should be supported by the provincial governments with all the required staff, or immediately the provinces have to to identify the possibly affected districts, the most vulnerable districts, and there should be some mechanism to take those people out of their areas before they are affected.
Right.
So these are like a couple of things that needs to be done.
Right.
And afterwards, when this flood is over and we go to into reconstruction and rehabilitation phase, we need to work vigilantly and very proactively.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Abdul Hakim. Thank you for being with us. Brigadier Dr. Fayaz Hussain Shah, thank you for joining us. Munir Ahmed Saab, thank you for being with us. Mohammad Abdul Shakur, thank you for joining us today. Overall, of course, as the situation stands, we're in the midst of rescue efforts at this time. Of course, the destruction is unparalleled on a scale that has not been seen in the last 40 years. As we grapple with this disaster, of course, we are happy, we are thankful for the kind of help that we are getting from friendly countries, from organizations around the world, from friendly organizations, from individuals, from civil society. Of course, at this time, we need all the help that we can get. Everyone needs to do their part. All other considerations, political, otherwise, will take a second seat. We've had a government's clear narrative on that. We've had the Prime Minister say that the first and foremost consideration remains rehabilitation, rescue of those affected by floods, as 1/3 of Pakistan is submerged in water. Let's hope that we can somehow arise to this challenge as a nation. Thank you so much for joining us today on Pers.